Demonstrations against the removal of Martín Vizcarra continue in Peru, while the chair of the Congress is sworn in as the president. In Bolivia, former President Evo Morales is welcomed in Oruro by thousands of people in the second day of the popular caravan that is going across Bolivia. European Union held a virtual summit to agree on measures of an European response to terrorism. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. Peru's Congress leader Manuel Merino received Tuesday the presidential sash as he takes over the presidential functions until the end of the current term in July 2021. Merino's swearing-in as the third president since 2016 came after an impeachment trial that ousted former President Martín Vizcarra over corruption allegations. Vizcarra is accused of taking bribes from developers while serving as a regional governor in 2014 in the province of Moquegua. President Merino called for national unity and promised that he will leave office on July 2021. Merino also criticized the previous president's handling of the pandemic, saying that Peru is the country with the most and the worst handling of the COVID-19. The country reports over 920,000 infections and nearly 35,000 deaths. Also, Peru has the world's highest per capita COVID-19 mortality rate. Demonstrations continue in Peru after the Congress passed the destitution motion against President Martín Vizcarra. Hundreds of people in Lima took to the surroundings of Plaza San Martín after the Congress removed Vizcarra from the presidency due to permanent moral disability. On Monday night, the Congress passed the motion with 105 votes. The demonstrations in the capital have been repressed by the state security forces. On Tuesday, Manuel Merino assumed the presidency of the government as interim president until the next elections. Vizcarra was sacked for permanent moral disability after a corruption scandal was uncovered due to irregular concessions when he was governor of the provinces of Moquegua. People from all over the country gathered to protest against the removal of Martín Vizcarra. Demonstrators claim that their protests are not in defense of Vizcarra, but for the democracy, which is under threat by the Congress. This Tuesday, more than 500 people, mostly students, marched against the Vizcarra removal. Democratic senators are blasting President Donald Trump over his refusal to concede his election loss, with Senator Chris Murphy alluding to an epidemic of delusion that he says has spread from the White House to the Republican Party.
Colleagues, there is an epidemic of delusion that is spreading out from the White House and infecting the entire Republican Party in the wake of this election. And it presents a real threat to this country. President Trump didn't win the election. Every single one of my colleagues knows this. We are a week out, and the president is still desperately searching for evidence of fraud. He won't find it because it doesn't exist.
But the extent to which the Republican Party is legitimizing the president's assault on our democracy is infuriating and deeply, deeply wrong. The president is not merely bringing forward well-founded legal challenges. He is not simply taking advantage of the ability to request a recount in states where one is possible. He is declaring himself to be the winner of an election that he lost.
According to a new survey, 70% of Republicans do not believe the presidential election was free and fair, even though multiple news outlets have called it for Biden. Donald Trump and his supporters continue to proclaim such problems without offering any evidence. Meanwhile, the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, said that Donald Trump will remain in power for a second term.
A smooth transition to a second Trump administration. All right. We're ready. The world is watching what's taking place here. We're going to count all the votes. When the process is complete, there'll be electors selected. There's a process. The Constitution lays it out pretty clearly. There will be a smooth transition.
A week after losing the U.S. election, President Donald Trump remained shut up in the White House on Tuesday, pushing an alternative reality that he is about to win and blocking Democrat Joe Biden's ability to prepare the transition. "We will win," the Republican president tweeted. The message referred to Trump's unprecedented decision for a United States president to dispute a lost election, refusing to concede to his opponent and preparing court challenges in states where Biden won. Meanwhile, workers have started to build a platform outside the U.S. Capitol that will be used for the scheduled inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden in 2 months. And the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has informed in a tweet that he spoke with U.S. President-elect Joe Biden and congratulated him on his victory in the election, despite the fact that Donald Trump has yet to concede defeat and Johnson has been quite close with the Republican. Boris Johnson told Biden he looked forward to reinforce the partnership between the UK and the U.S. Also, French President Emmanuel Macron congratulates U.S. President-elect Joe Biden by phone following his election win. Like most other European leaders, the French president had congratulated him on Saturday and said he hoped to act together to overcome current situations. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have given addresses condemning the latest attempt by Republican right-wing ideologies to strike down the Affordable Care Obamacare, in the latest case before the Supreme Court. In the middle of a deadly pandemic that is affecting more than 10 million Americans, these doctrines are once again trying to strip health coverage away from the American people, said the president-elect. The Supreme Court hears arguments in a case that could see the healthcare law dismantled. The suit, brought by 18 Republican states, aims to rule the law as unconstitutional. The signature healthcare reform law that extended healthcare coverage to millions of Americans. According to the Urban Institute think tank, over 20 million Americans could lose their healthcare if Obamacare is overturned. And we'll go now to a short break. Follow us on Twitter. Welcome back to From the South. Bolivia's former president and indigenous leader Evo Morales welcomed the beginning of the liberation of the Bolivians that fought for the defense of the country after the return of democracy.
I am sure that we will continue to legally release several brothers who were arrested only for having defended their homeland, only for having defended democracy. The fight is much more profound because the capitalism, the imperialism, permanently plans how to take possession of our natural resources.
Bolivia's former president Evo Morales stated that the struggle of the organized people continues as a resistance against the supremacy of the richest sectors.
Those who only have plans on how to accumulate capital in a few hands do not accept that we can also liberate ourselves, not only politically and culturally, but economically. The social union communal struggle is an important resource, but the ideological, political, pragmatic, and especially electoral struggle has also been important. Sisters and brothers, last year we won the first round of the elections on October 20, and to inform the world, international research shows that we won in the first round, and this year, October 18, almost a year ago, we won again with over 55% of the votes. Thank you very much, sisters and brothers, of a united people, the organized people.
Evo Morales announced in the region of Oruro that the current government will resume the plan of turning the Bolivian lithium into a national industry.
Until now, we have begun the industrialization of lithium, and we said to this plant, the gringos will not enter. That has been our sin. It does not matter, sisters and brothers. They only stopped. They have not privatized. Now, with our president, we will continue the industrialization of the lithium and other natural resources.
And the Ecuadorian President Lenín Moreno eliminated the presidential decree with which the salaries of president, vice president and ministers were cut by 50%. President Lenín Moreno issued the decree on May 2020 as a result of the economic crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. With the decree, Moreno's salary fell from USD 5,072 to USD 2,537, and that of the vice president from USD 4,869 to USD 2,434. Now, and even though the health crisis and the pandemic continues, the president, vice president, and the government's ministers will receive their full salary. Ecuador is one of the countries hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. According to official statistics, so far 12,849 people have died from the virus, while more than 175,000 confirmed cases. Although experts warn that the official statistics may not be revealing the truth about the current situation in the South American country. Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro Moros welcomed the return of the former President Evo Morales to Bolivia after a year of the coup d'etat against him that forced him to exile in Argentina.
Evo Morales Aima returned to Bolivia, and a sea of people welcomed him there in the border. The brave president of Argentina, Alberto Fernandez, accompanied him in a very helpful way, because Alberto Fernandez not only saved Evo's life. A day like today, a year ago, on November 10th, Evo was being victim of a coup, and now, a year after, is arriving in his homeland to his native house.
In other news, the Venezuelan president said that the massive and free vaccination against COVID-19 will start on April next year, 2021, after the ending of clinical trials of the Russian Sputnik V vaccine.
I think that in April we might be in a position to begin vaccination in Venezuela for all our people in a safe and direct free way. I believe that it will be in the middle of the second trimester already, April onwards.
And 57 people have died and 8 are missing in Honduras following tropical storm Ida, authorities said on Monday, as the death toll doubled in one of the countries worst hit by the storm. Honduras was one of the worst affected, with part of the country now underwater, and authorities haven't reported 23 dead on Sunday. Ida slammed into Central America last week as a Category 4 hurricane, leaving over 200 people across the region dead or missing. 2 major rivers overflowed in Honduras' economic heartland, causing widespread flooding and trapping tens of thousands of people. The U.S. National Hurricane Center tweeted that Tropical Storm Ida had become a 29th event to be named this season, beating the previous record of 28 in 2005, the year Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans. The center was even forced to switch to the Greek alphabet after 2020's storm exhausted its list of Latin names. And we have more stories coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Government leaders of France, Austria and Germany, along with the participation of the European Union, held a virtual summit to agree on measures of an European response to terrorism. The French President Emmanuel Macron and the Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz presided the conference from the Élysée Palace, while the rest of the delegation had the virtual presence. During the summit, the speakers defined a future common strategy Franco-Austrian and European to face the incursion of terrorist agents in the old continent. The project will be presented at the European Council in December 10th this year. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel attended the European Union mini-summit on terrorism. The online summit came a week after a convicted Islamic State group supporter killed 4 people in a shooting rampage in the heart of Vienna following last month's attack on a church in the French city of Nice.
This is not, and we all agree on this, a conflict between Islam and Christianity, for example, but the fact that the democratic model of society has to deal with terrorism and anti-democratic behavior.
The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, announced on Monday that the European Union will authorize a contract up for 3 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine developed by biotech and Pfizer.
Effective vaccine is our best chance to beat coronavirus and return to our normal lives. In the past month, the European Commission has been working tirelessly to secure doses of potential vaccines. And tomorrow we authorize a contract for up to 300 million doses of the vaccine developed by BioNTech and Pfizer. This is the most promising vaccine so far. And once this vaccine becomes available, our plan is to deploy it quickly everywhere in Europe. Every member state will receive a fair share on a pro rata basis at the same time under the same conditions. We have already started working with member states to prepare national vaccination campaigns. We are almost there. In the meantime, let us be prudent and stay safe.
And the Italian Health Ministry registered 35,000 new COVID-19 infections in the country during the last 24 hours, bringing the total number to 995,463. The number of COVID-19 cases in Italy is about to reach the 1 million cases. A total of 580 people died to the COVID-19 pandemic during the same time period, being the highest single-day increase since April 15. Italy officially moved 5 regions from the yellow zone to the orange zone on Tuesday, according to the 3-tier system of restrictions implemented by the government to slow down the second wave of the coronavirus pandemic. Iran's judiciary chief pledged that Tehran will not back off from the efforts to punish those that assassinated top Iranian commander General Qasem Soleimani and impose sanctions on Iran even though Donald Trump is leaving the White House. Addressing a Monday session of the Judiciary's Supreme Council, Ayatollah Sayed Ebrahim Raisi said although a terrorist that has hit blood of Iran national hero of Inhaz has been thrown out of the White House, the Islamic Republic will not give up the duty of punishing those behind the assassination of General Soleimani, and the economic terrorists would have committed crimes against Iranians by imposing sanctions. The top judge further explained that the terrorists who attacked the university and killed innocent Afghan students have been created by the U.S. Democrats and employed by the Republicans. Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammad Stayeh said that Israel has to choose between the two-state solution and becoming a demographic melting pot. The Israeli settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories are the enemy of peace, he said in the cabinet meeting held in Ramallah. The Israeli occupation government must stop its colonial plans and stop seizing our lands and building thousands of settlement units, Stayed said. The number of settlers in the Palestinian territories, including Jerusalem, has now reached more than 750,000, and they constitute 25% of the total population of the West Bank, he said. The Prime Minister called on the European countries and the rest of the world to take a step towards breaking the status quo and recognize the state of Palestine in order to force Israel to stop its settlement plans, annexation, demolishing homes, Judaism, Jerusalem, and isolating Gaza. The UN-led peace talks on Libya resumed for a second day in Gramarth, near the Tunisian capital Tunis. The United Nations is hosting talks on Libya in its latest push to end almost a decade of violence in the North African country. This week's talks aim to unify Libya under a single interim executive and pave the way for national elections. It will also be providing services to Libyans facing desperate economic times and a coronavirus outbreak that has killed over 900 people. Delegates are tasked with appointing a three-member presidency council representing Libya's 3 historical regions and a prime minister to lead a separate government of the national unit. And Mali's former president Amadou Toumani Toure has died in Turkey, aged 72, a family member and a doctor said on Tuesday. Toure led the Sahel nation for a decade before being ousted in a coup. Toumani Toure died in Turkey, where he had been taken for health reasons, his nephew Omar Toure told. A hospital doctor in Bamako said the former leader had recently undergone heart surgery. He won presidential elections in 2002 and 2007, but was overthrown in 2012 by soldiers who accused him of failing to support the battle against both Tuareg rebels and jihadist insurgents. In Lebanon, the Higher Defense Council convened Tuesday at Babda Presidential Palace in the presence of caretaker Prime Minister Hassan Diab, as well as caretaker ministers of Defense, Justice, Interior, Economy, Finance, Public Health and Public Works, approving a 2-week total lockdown over the coronavirus concerns. Diab ordered the security forces to be strict in the implementation of the lockdown across all the Lebanese territories, calling on the citizens to assume their responsibilities on this regard. Also announced monthly subsidies to be distributed over 240,000 Lebanese families. Lebanon has witnessed a sharp increase in the coronavirus cases, with over 95,000 cases and 700 diseases. And we have come to the end of this news brief, but remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also, if you feel so inclined, follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For TeleSUR English, my name is Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.